Hello, Pittsburgh. I'm Jack Troy, and this is TribLive's From the Newsroom podcast, bringing you top stories from TribLive.com. The Pittsburgh Mills has spent most of its 20-year existence at the butt end of jokes about dying malls. But it's potholes, not vacancies, that have people talking of late. Now, these are not ordinary potholes. We're talking about 3 foot wide, 1 foot deep, bone-rattling potholes that have damaged cars and deterred shoppers. For years, owners Namdar Realty have done little to fix them, and it was only Monday that a crew hired by the mall appeared to patch the worst of these potholes. It's estimated, though, that a full repair job would take $4.5 million. This week, they've only spent $20,000. Reporter Shaylah Brown and, to a lesser extent myself, have been following this story as it snowballed into code violations, a civil lawsuit, and even criminal charges against the mall's owners. We're here to discuss. Shaylah, thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Excited to be back in the host chair here, filling in for Zach Gibson. So yeah, to get started here, can you just explain why people should care about potholes, right? I mean, they're a common thing in Western Pennsylvania, but what is the Mills and what's going on there with the potholes? Why are they so bad?
Yes, so the Pittsburgh Mills is a big shopping area in the township of Fraser, and it includes the mall space, which is really dwindling with not a lot of stores left operating. But there's also a village shopping center, which is like the strip mall, where it has multiple different stores like anchors like Lowe's, Walmart, and also a hotel. So there is a lot of traffic there, and people are frequenting these roads often, and they're encountering these large, really dilapidating and life-altering at times potholes because they've had to navigate their entire lives around how they drive on these roads to avoid damage to their car or even getting in accidents.
Right, and it's a situation too where you're in Fraser. There's not a ton of options to go shopping there or in neighboring communities, and so the Mills has a Walmart, a Sam's Club,
Right.
There's an Aldi, there's a Michael's, that's another popular one, Lowe's.
Right.
So there are a lot of businesses there that people frequent, and in some cases like have to go to.
Right, exactly. And that's some of the things that I encountered during my reporting was that there's so much of that community is actually elderly and aging that a lot of people go there to walk the mall for their daily routine, or some people are renovating their homes and use the Lowe's frequently, and that's the closest thing they can get to. So they have to encounter these potholes, and it's almost unavoidable.
You know it's getting bad when your mall can't even accommodate mall walkers.
Yeah.
So yeah, this has been going on for, I'd say, probably a couple of years now. Obviously, it's gotten worse and worse and kind of come to a head. But at what point did this become something more than just an annoyance for shoppers? When did the authorities get involved?
Right. So just to preface, Namdar Realty, which is the realtor company based out of Great Neck, New York, they've been infamous for their business model of sort of letting these properties that they own go into complete disrepair and then selling them to a developer for a larger profit. So they're completely uninvested in the upkeep of this space and kind of just letting the community take the fall on that. And so the complaints really started coming into the Fraser police around 2021, which is when they've documented since that point, they've received 38 reports of just rims being damaged, tire blowouts. A lot of people, they've gotten their tires have hit the potholes and it's caused it to completely go flat. And so some people have been driving around without even knowing that this happened or having to replace like 3 to 4 tires at a time. And then also there's, when people hit it, it's like their automatic shock on their crash, the crash notification from their vehicles are coming on. And then some are reporting neck injuries, head injuries, things like that. So it is something that's now going beyond just the nuisance of being undecent looking. It's actually impacting people's lives and pockets.
Yeah, that was one of the most insane details about this is there were 2 instances where somebody actually hit a pothole so hard their car thought they got in a collision. I mean, that's just insane. You mentioned there the police reports. At what point did police or the township actually take action?
Right. So over time, obviously, they had been collecting all these complaints from residents and also business owners because a lot of the employees, they would say, we're actually losing business because people are saying they don't want to come here anymore.
Hmm.
So around September 2024, that is when the township of Fraser formally filed a civil lawsuit against Namdar Realty, and that's for the damages of the roads and requesting $4.5 million to fix them.
Gotcha. And where has that gone so far?
So they're still in the litigation process with that, but it doesn't seem like Namdar is really doing anything to push it forward. Like you said, only recently have they started some form of improvement to the road. So it is a really slow process, which is why I think the criminal case was even more urgent, because they weren't moving their feet very quickly.
Yeah, let's talk about that criminal case, because coincidence or not, it did kind of come to light late last week, and now this week there are some filled potholes. So let's discuss that a little bit, and what may have motivated Namdar to finally act.
Yeah, well, I think crime and a lot of money always motivates people.
Good point.
Last week on March 20th, Allegheny County filed a criminal lawsuit against Namdar using a search warrant to look at some of their code violations and also some of the ways in which they've avoided maintenance of the property for years. And so within that search warrant, they found that Namdar Realty had completely left the roads in deplorable conditions. And within that, there had been businesses within the mall and shopping center that were paying into this maintenance fund frequently, and the roads have still not been maintained. So that leaves the question to where has this money been going as well?
Yeah, so explain to me like how this fund worked, how much was being paid in, and how that all compares obviously to the $20,000.
A few businesses have been paying to Pitt Realty LLC, and specifically Eaton Park, they've been paying close to $530 monthly since 2018. And that has amounted close to $42,000. And so that leaves the question to where has this money been going if the roads have not been maintained?
Right. And just to be clear too, it's the Eaton Park rate is specifically mentioned in the warrant. Lowe's, as mentioned, they pay 3 times more a month, but it is every business there is paying in just based on their frontage. So Eaton Park is singled out kind of as an example by police, but it's every business paying in. So we don't know the exact math, but it's they're raking in thousands of dollars a month. And yeah, like you said, it's totally unclear where that might be heading. They do have about 400 properties.
Right. They do have 400 properties across the U.S., and they also own other malls across Western Pennsylvania.
Oh, what are some of those other malls?
There's some in Beaver County, I believe, also in Warren County. But what is interesting is that even when you reach out to them, there's no response. It's kind of like a mystery or game, because they always give you another person to reach out to. So they may say one person on one call, and then it's like, oh, well, you need to contact the PR people, and oh, well, now you need to go back to Namdar. So it's never like one specific person that you can actually speak to about what's going on.
How many, it's you're relatively new to the Fraser beat, and so you've done multiple stories on this because this is a big deal. But I say that to kind of lead up to this question of how many people have you had to deal with who are with Namdar or representing Namdar around Namdar as you're trying to get any sort of answer, which, as I understand it, we've gotten nothing from them for a long time.
Yeah, so I've already encountered about 6 people, and they range. It's usually just the first name, like you email Heather at Namdar, or then you email like Michael at Spring Publicity, and so it's different people. But I also found someone that was connected to the family on Facebook, and I reached out to them specifically. They just directed me back to the corporate office. But it is interesting that does seem to be a family business, but there's so many moving parts that you can't actually speak with one person.
Gotcha. Namdar, correct, is the last name of the family that owns it? Yeah,
Namdar.
Okay. Well, that's a good segue, I suppose. You mentioned Facebook. It's not just been authorities that have been pushing folks here. This has become something of an online fascination.
Right.
Tell me a little bit about that.
So there is a lot of frenzy around the potholes, and I almost think it's like this kind of like unifier of people. Like, even if they wouldn't have gotten along before,
Yeah.
once the potholes get in the mix, now, they have something to talk
They're
about.
bridging political divides.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly, which is pretty interesting about just how a community can rally together to cause some change. So earlier in January 2025, there was a page that was developed by a Springdale resident called Pittsburgh Mills Mess. And that page has thousands of followers with multiple posts each day. And people are really voicing their grievances with the potholes, but also really calling for action. So when the author created the page, she really wanted to bring the community together. And what she was thinking was that even if Namdar doesn't step up to fix the potholes, that even if they all collectively like donated $1 and put it in a fund, maybe they might have enough to just do something in the
Yeah.
meantime. And because the roads are privately owned and the state nor the township can do anything, they were really taking it on their own accord to figure out a solution. And I think that just speaks to like collective community involvement and also care for each other, which was really interesting. But then obviously there's just this real deep frustration where, because there's no other way to fix them, this is the only outlet for people to voice their concerns and upsets.
Right. Maybe something that would ordinarily be all directed to the, I don't know, the township secretary's inbox, right?
Yeah.
Is has nowhere in particular to go, and it's just kind of becoming this whole social media phenomenon. So there's that a Pittsburgh Mills Mess group, which seems very organized and almost taking on a character of like advocacy as you would for any other issue.
Right.
There are some other groups out there, right? Do you know anything about this guy I keep seeing on Facebook who's like laying in the potholes and like throwing cartons of tea in them?
Yes.
Okay.
So I think that's also like just to understand the magnitude of these potholes, because now it's become sort of like a fabric of their lives. And like some of the potholes are 10 inches deep and wide. So it's like these can really cause accidents. One person that I spoke to, he was saying that he was actually terrified that someone was going to fall in them and like break a leg or something, and things like that would happen. And I think that if this was to continue, you might see more like actual injuries. Another person was saying that he was afraid that police might pull people over because they think they're drunk driving and like the constant swerving. So it is something that is a big deal. And at times it could just be like kind of like a joke. But when you really think about it, like this can actually cause real accidents.
I think that's an important point, because it's like, it's not just people self-reporting. It's like police have also noted, right, that they've seen folks swerving into other lanes, abruptly
Right.
stopping, doing things that otherwise are pretty conducive to accidents, just to not strike one of these like 10-inch potholes. Let's pivot now and talk about what is being done. All of this concern by the community, involvement of authorities, and social media posting has seemed to finally move the needle. So what's going on up there this week?
Right. So really what started the movement was Walmart paid for a company to fill in a few of the holes that was impeding. Some of the major potholes were impeding truck deliveries. And so that happened behind Aldi. And then there was more of a sort of a trickle-in effect of a fewer holes being paved as well. And that was in the Lowe's parking lot as well. And then now we're seeing Namdar pave a few more with, like you said, the $20,000 that they've allotted. But it is still happening slowly, but it doesn't, there's still concerns as drivers are driving throughout the main roads. But I think that it is interesting in the ways that the Facebook pages and all the outcry have, I believe, pushed people to do something, because I think there is this urgency now because people are threatening or boycotting shopping there.
Yeah, have you spoken with any shoppers who've said that, who say, I'm gonna stop coming here because it's not worth me destroying my car for a gallon of milk?
Absolutely. When I was at the Sam's Club location, people were talking about just like discussing, well, is it worth it to risk the bill of having to repair my vehicle or like the need for groceries? So people are like, well, I've decided that as long as the roads look like that, we're not going to drive out there, and they're going to drive 30 minutes away to the next supermarket or the next like home improvement store.
Yeah. Gotcha. And surely the businesses up there are not happy about that. I'm sure there's also been some behind the scenes pressure in addition to all the other stuff we've discussed. I did want to touch on what the Mills means is kind of like just an economic hub for the Alakiski Valley, but I feel like we've done a good job of that. I think the last beat here is just where do you see this heading next? I mean, do we have any indications that Namdar filling in a few potholes and Walmart stepping in and paving a little stretch? I mean, it's what, 500 feet tops, is the start of like serious progress on this, or does this seem to just be a stopgap measure to get the district? Does this just seem to be a stopgap measure to get the district? I can't say district attorney, to get the district attorney off their backs.
So I would say that Namdar has had a track record, which doesn't necessarily make me so optimistic about what they're going to do. I do think that there is pressure, but I think that the complete totality of fixing this problem will take years, and it won't be something that's immediate because the neglect has been for years. But I do think that what we might see is more businesses, like some of the corporations, doing something that causes Namdar to act more quickly, or even something that they do on their own to fix the roads, at least in the meantime, while Namdar does formally make more changes.
Gotcha. Well, I do occasionally get sent to do pickups at MacBid, so I have as much a stake in this as anybody. Hopefully the potholes get sorted out there. But yeah, it's been a great conversation. I feel like I've learned a lot, and I'm even somebody who's reported on this, so hopefully this is great for our listeners. Thanks for coming in, Shaylah.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining. If you enjoyed this week's episode, share the podcast to help keep Western PA locally informed with insightful discussion and the latest news from your area. It's an easy way to spread the word, and it helps our podcast reach more people like you. Don't forget to follow us on Spotify and turn on episode notifications so you never miss new content. Once again, I'm Zach Gibson, and this is From the Newsroom.